further ado, I will turn it over to Ty.
All right. Can everybody hear me okay? No! Oh, geez, see? That's what I was worried about. So I'm a really loud person and they're making me use a microphone. So I get really loud, and if it squeals, let me know. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. So nice to meet you all. So my name's Ty. I am, as she said, I'm a talent advisor for Sanford. That's my full-time job. I like to consider myself in the topic of wellness and stress management an enthusiast. And what I mean by that is I am not some sort of expert that tours the country and talks about wellness and stress and talks about management or any stress management or any of that stuff. I am just a guy who finds this stuff interesting. I like psychology. I studied it. And then they asked me to do a guest speech, and I didn't realize it was like a keynote conference speech. I actually thought it was just going to be like me and 20 of you in a classroom, kind of in a conference style, just chit-chatting like a class. And then they're like, surprise, you're in front of a bunch of people and you have to do stuff. And I was like, great, fantastic, here we are. So I'm a bit of an enthusiast, a bit more about myself. My bachelor's degree is in psychology. I have to build credibility with you all. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I got that degree because I was forced to declare a major when I tried to join the Army in college. I was denied from the Army because I have asthma, so I was medically disqualified there. So I ended up just getting my psychology bachelor's simply because I was pretty much already done with it, and it was the easiest thing to do. So I just got the bachelor's degree, and I became the guy that was like, now I have my bachelor's degree, now what? Anyway, after a few years of working in the world, so I got a job at Wells Fargo, worked there for several years at the call center, which sucks. I worked as an apprentice electrician for a little while, or Elite Electric for a little bit, and learned some trade skill stuff. We'll never take that back. I think it's one of the best things I ever did was learn a trade skill. And then I found myself being like, hey, I want to go back to school. So I went back to school for human factors psychology, which is not clinical psychology. And I will give extra credit to anyone here who knows what human factors psychology is, except for students that maybe were in my class at one point in time. They probably know the answer. I know he's around here somewhere. Anybody know what human factors is? Kind of figured. It's fine. So human factors psychology, when you think of psychology, you think of clinical. You know, sit down, talk to a therapist, tell me how that makes you feel, how's that relationship with your dad going, you know, all that fun stuff. Okay? Human factors psychology is how we interact with things. So the concept of you have less attentional resources focused on the screen in front of you when you've got your laptop in front of you and you're trying to multitask all that information coming in from there, that's what human factors is. Okay, we understand the relationship you have with the thing, potentially your laptop, potentially this microphone on my back, potentially the chairs on your butts, right? The relationship you have with the objects changes the way in which you think ever so slightly. So that's essentially human factors. I chose human factors because I liked psychology, but I had no patience to be a therapist. I didn't think my rough attitude at the time and my tendency to swear profusely would be really good in a clinical setting, so I decided to go with human factors. Okay. Since then, I do a lot of different things. Again, I teach Psychology 101. I teach Psychology 233 with the University of South Dakota. I am, of course, a talent advisor for Sanford. That pays the bills and gives me health benefits. So as you guys all know, as you're reaching adulthood, you need something that gives you health benefits. That's Sanford for me. I also have volunteered for a company called Draco, which is a nonprofit organization. I teach motorcycle safety for the state of South Dakota. So when you guys are looking over here and seeing these motorcycle people riding around in circles, right, that's me. I'm one of those instructors pointing at the people on the motorcycles and being like, don't crash. And then they crash anyway. Right, so that's essentially what I do, and that's a little bit about myself. I like to consider myself an enthusiast again, not because I'm specially trained in any way, shape, or form. I just am a person that has understood, been part of stress, probably gone through some shitty times just like the rest of you, and I'm trying to help you out by giving you some tools and tips and tricks. Actually, that brings us to our first slide. Don't look down, right? That's the common tip. The common tip when you're facing a situation that you feel like is a huge leap, something stressful, for example. I liken it to when I would go as a kid to Wild Water West, and they had those drop-off slides, I, to this day, have never been off of one of those drop-off slides. I just don't have the courage, right? It is what it is. But they say, hey, you can do it. Just climb to the top. Don't look down. Plug your nose and go. Okay? I tell you this little brief story to set you up for what I'm here to do today. I am not here to tell you that you shouldn't turn around and walk back down those stairs. I'm not here to tell you that when you reach a point of stress, right, that you just keep powering through. I'm here to be honest with you, that we all have breaking points. We all have a point in our lives, in our stressful lives, that we need to just take a second and disconnect from it. And that doesn't make you a weaker person. That doesn't make you a less of a person or a less capable person. It's just a truth to the matter. So everything I talked to you guys about today, all these tools, these tips, these tricks, this little bit about stress and psychology, it's not to set you up to say, all right, well, you have all these tools, kick open the door, you got this. Right? It's merely to help you to manage and handle those situations when you find yourself in them. And again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with if you find yourself looking down and stressing out, to just take the stairs back down. Because I still do it. Okay, so that's a little bit why I'm here. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? We're going to talk about the fundamentals of stress. I'm going to talk to you about a little bit of the biological components of stress, very briefly, because I know it's kind of dorky. And then we'll talk about complexities of stress. So we'll talk about how stress isn't as simple as it used to be, the projections of the future, the redundancy of how our own brain is telling us about stress, all these kinds of deals. We'll talk about that a little bit. We'll spend some time building some mental frameworks for stress management. So just giving you kind of a rough figure way to look at as we walk through and as we deal with stress. And then I'm going to give you some tangible tips for your life. And I can just lead you to the tips. Hopefully they help you. That's my goal. My goal is to help you. My goal is not really to do anything else but that. So there you go. That's what we're going to do today. So what's stress? What's going on physiologically? Physiologically. And when we talk physiologically, we're talking about the body, right? What is going physiologically when we experience stress? Where does it come from and why do we have it? The purpose of stress initially, right, the feeling of stress, essentially, is this fight or flight. And you probably all experienced it. You've probably heard this before. You understand that, hey, when you're feeling stressed, right, it is based on this idea that you are in danger. And your sympathetic nervous system kicks in. For those of you that have taken some classes in biology, possibly psychology, you know what the sympathetic nervous system is. It's that part of the nervous system that gets you ready for action. Your pupils dilate, your lungs get ready to fill up with air, your heartbeat increases, you're ready to roll. Okay. Now, I come from a perspective, my perspective personally, and I will share with you my biases so that way nobody is kind of surprised by this, but I come from the perspective that there's a reason why we have this. These behaviors, this stress we have is adapted for a reason. Right? We have stress, we get into these fight or flight modes for a reason. Whether that was by some intentional design or by evolution is up to you. I'm not going to go down that route. Okay? But we have it for a reason. In this case, arguably the reason is defend yourself from threats. The big scary bear. Right. Thank you for laughing. These are jokes. Right? We're worried about the bear. We're worried about the bear. Okay? We're worried about something potentially ripping our faces off. And is that a reasonable thing to be worried about? Yes, absolutely it's a reasonable thing to worry about. Bears are scary as shit. And they can hurt your face. Right? So totally reasonable. It would make sense that we get ready into a fight or flight mode when we've got bears around. Okay? But we're not fighting bears anymore. Arguably. Some of us are. They're crazy. Don't know why they're fighting bears. Purposefully, anyway. Okay? Most of us are not fighting bears anymore. We're not getting into these no harm situations. We're not getting jacked up for a fight because this thing's going to rip my face off. We're dealing with more complex situations. Yet we're working with a system that was designed for threat, no threat. We're working with a system that gets us ready for the bear about to rip off our face. Yet, there's no bear. In this case, just thinking about potential future stresses, right, is something that's going to put you into a stress mode. It's going to get you feeling like, hey, my heartbeat's racing, my palms are sweaty. I need to be able to sweat and slip out if a bear grabs me, right? I'm all greased up. Okay, heart's racing, ready to rock. But there is no bear. There's only potentially the future of a threat or a danger. Lots of information coming in all at once via email, sound of my voice, lecture, your own brain, compounding. It's hard to handle it all. But there's not really necessarily a danger. Now, I know you can sit and argue. You could say, hey, if I don't complete my homework, I get an F. If I get an F, I fail this class. I fail this class. I fail my program. I fail my program. I don't get my degree. I don't get my degree. I don't get the job I wanted. I don't get the job I wanted. I don't get the money to buy the house I wanted. I don't get the money to buy the house I wanted or to live the life I wanted. I have somehow failed. Life is a failure. Okay? But a lot of those are perspectives of the future. Now, this isn't to say that these aren't real feelings. They absolutely are. I'm not going to pretend like that train of logic is the wrong logic. It's a logic. I had it too. I think about these things too. The thing we need to think about is how they're a projection of something. They are a creation of the mind in some senses. When we think about some of the biggest stressors we experience, we typically say there are three big categories. Three big, I guess, characteristics, that's the word. Three big characteristics of what makes something stressful. One is that it's catastrophic. A bear ripping off your face, is it catastrophic? Yes, you're probably going to experience a shit ton of stress from that, okay? Failing your class, is that potentially catastrophic? Could be, right? We just went down that train of thought, totally a fair logic. Okay? Stubbing your toe, is that catastrophic? Probably not. If it hurts like hell, yeah, probably, but it's not necessarily catastrophic. Okay, next, predictable. Can we predict that the thing is going to happen? Can we predict that the thing is going to happen? You will experience more stress if you can't predict the thing will happen. Okay, and finally, uncontrollable. Do I exert some level of control over this? So those are some characteristics of what makes something stressful, more stressful than others. Catastrophic, unpredictable. Let's add another layer of confusion to this middle ground on top of this system built for harm, no harm. And it's the idea that sometimes stress can be helpful. Sometimes stress can be helpful. And I think of competitive sports. A lot of you folks, I'm sure, have played some form of competitive sports, whether it was recently as a kid or, sometime during your lives, you played some sort of competitive sport. And esports counts. I'll count those. Okay? The fact that you're put into a high-pressure situation, puts you under stress. And being put under stress sometimes gets you more focused. Right? It brings your mind into a good, rational thinking space. Stress can help you. There's positive stress, or eustress is what we call it. And there's negative stress, or distress. Once we're on the fringes of things, right? When our behavioral efficiency and the stimulation of the environment around us are not lining up just right, that's when we run into distress. You're overexerted. There's too much coming your way. Again, all of this builds on the system in our bodies, meant to deal with bear, no bear, ripping my face off. So it's easy to see how some of the feelings we experience with stress are really similar to some of the feelings we get when we're threatened by a bear. So I'm going to add another layer of complication for you just because I like to get a little dorky. and theoretical. So if you thought we were complex already, let's add this little flair in there. Now we need to think about that it's your brain telling you that you're stressed, and it's your brain telling you that it's your brain telling you that you're stressed, and therefore maybe you shouldn't be as stressed. Right? Little redundancy loop in there. Your brain's the system telling you you're getting stressed. Your sympathetic nervous system kicks in. Oh my goodness, I'm having a stressful time. Adding another layer, right? Okay, so let's take a step back. Maybe I shouldn't be as stressed, right? There's some things going on that are beyond my control. I can accept some of these things. I can put some focus on some things, right? I can do that. But that's my brain telling me to do the thing that's supposed to help me with the thing that I'm stressed out about. Did I lose anybody there? A little bit? That's fair, right? But you see kind of the weird redundant loop here. Now, again, if I was a stress expert, if my job in life was to go town to town and talk to you all about stress, I'd probably have a better answer for this theoretical loop that we find ourselves in. Okay? I don't have that. I'm not a professional. I'm merely an enthusiast. But what I will say is just because we lack philosophical clarity, just because we leave here today without some philosophical clarity as to what's in charge, the thing doing the thing, or the thing thinking about the thing that does the thing, we're following now. Some of you guys are really getting it now, right? Just because we don't have the philosophical clarity there doesn't mean we can't walk away with some practical solutions. And my example here is that of space-time. And again, I'm a bit of a dork. Don't know if you've noticed already. I have a favorite physicist. His name is Michio Kaku. If you know who that is, yay, dorks. Okay. My space-time is the analogy. Do you all know how space-time works? Some of you do. Awesome. Great for you. Most of us don't, and arguably I don't. I have a rough idea, but I don't really know how it works. Okay? But just because we don't have a pure understanding of the principles of this thing doesn't necessarily mean we can't come to practical solutions, which in this case is GPS. GPS serves as my analogy here. You all use GPS every time you get lost. Hell, I feel like we're more dependent on it now than I ever was before as a kid. Okay? We're using these understandings of as we move farther and farther from the center of gravity, time dilates, or whatever the heck it happens. Okay? And we can figure out some practical way to use that to our advantage and create GPS. So that's where I ask you all to meet me here today. We may not have a perfect understanding of the theoretical concepts of stress, but we can come to some good practical examples on how we can overcome some of these hurdles in our lives. So I got some tools and tips for you. Bringing you back with some memes. Is it working? All right. Gotta love the memes. I'm gonna make it simple. ABC. I'm gonna break down the ABCs. Why? Because I'm not a professional. I'm merely an enthusiast. So you know what? This is about my level of understanding as well. A, B, C. Accept, bottleneck, celebrate. That's what we're gonna do. That's going to be our stress management mindset framework, essentially. What do we mean by accept? What do we mean by accept? In some understanding of the world, right, there are things we can control and things we cannot control. Google term for you, the loci of control is what we're looking for, loci of control. It's an internal or an external loci of control. Internal meaning, I'm sorry, I'll start with external. External meaning my life and everything that has happened to me, all of my experiences and everything that I will later become is all beyond my control. It was written in the stars before I was born. It will be as it is. I have zero influence on this. The fact that I am in front of you all today was merely a cosmic coincidence. And this is what it is. I have zero control here. That's external. That's a bit extreme, I know. And I could probably convince a few of you 1,000 years ago that your entire lives were dependent on where the stars were aligned. But I feel like now it'd be a lot tougher of a sell. The other end of that spectrum is the internal locus of control. Everything I do, everything that I am, I guess, around, I I can control in some way. If I were to will it so, the sun will rise at midnight, because I have willed it so. I am Ra, the god of the sun. Is it Ra? Yeah. Nailing the references, right? Okay. Some of these are unplanned jokes, so just let me know if they work. Right? So these are the extremes. I have control over everything. I have control over nothing. We're all smart people. We all know the truth is somewhere in between. And it's situationally dependent. There's going to be some situations where you have more control over the thing, and there's going to be some situations where you have less control over the thing going on. It's just a fact of life. So we need to understand that there are some things beyond our control and simply accept that. Not give up per se, but accept there are just some things you can't control. Again, no matter how hard I try, I cannot make the sun rise at midnight. And I've accepted that. Okay. The second thing is to be present with things. Be present with who you are, even in the moment. Accept it. The book I'm referencing in a lot of this is The Upside to Your Dark Side. Feel free to write that down. It's a great book. In that book, they basically talk about how some of the emotions we feel, typically called the dark emotions, sadness, stress, I don't know, guilt, shame, right, are actually potentially helpful. Or they have their benefits. Now, remember earlier, I personally believe that every emotion experience we have for some reason. We have developed that for a reason, right? And these folks take this is where I get this idea from. Even the emotion of stress is arguably a helpful emotion. So when I talked about eustress earlier, that little line arc, okay? We talked about when you're stressed and in the moment, your ability to focus forward is a little bit better than maybe somebody who is not stressed. And that seems weird. Ty, wouldn't I want to be like carefree and chill all the time? Think about the most carefree, chill person you know. Do they seem to have a 5-year plan figured out? Probably not, right? Arguably, the more carefree you are, the less detail-oriented you become. And is detail orientation a good thing? Being detail-oriented a good thing? Depends, sure. I'll take depends. Is it always a good thing? No, not always. But, because we Overthinker Club. I'm a card-carrying member of the Overthinkers Club as well. But sometimes detail orientation is useful when you're trying to solve problems. So part of our acceptance is not only accepting that there are things outside of our control, but it's also accepting that the stress that you're experiencing could be helpful. It isn't necessarily a bad thing. Back to that original arc that we showed, the eustress versus distress. Okay? So that's our acceptance. So how do we work on accepting? Try this at home. Make a list of things that are currently causing you stress. You can do this at any time, any day, any hour. I mean, you need the time, so, probably shouldn't do it in the middle of class, but anytime, any day. Okay. Make a list of things that are causing you stress. Write down that these stresses are plannable, controllable, catastrophic. Because those were our 3 characteristics. You remember those? Okay. So write those things down. Be truthful to yourself in your answers. Is a stubbed toe truly catastrophic? No. A lot of silence there. I was really waiting for somebody to agree with me. Okay. Be honest with yourself in your answers. Okay. Write down the things that you can and cannot control about the stress. Write some things that are within your control that you can do and some that you can't control. And then take the things that you can't control, crumple them up, throw them away. A little metaphoric, sure. Take the things you can't control, crumple them up, throw them away. This is going to take some concerted effort, some system 2 thinking. You need to kick your brain in a little bit. You can't do this mindlessly. It's effortful thought. Okay? Not mindless doom scrolling. And that's one way to help us understand there are some things we can accept, some things that are happening to us that we come to accept, and some things, right, that we can't control. Next, batch and bundle. I also call it bottleneck. Batch and bundle your things. Okay? This is based on a human factors concept. Surprise, human factors, sprinkles right in there. Human factors concept of sensory attention, so sensory attenuation. Okay? I'll give you the breakdown. Right now, you are experiencing the sound of my voice, the light coming into your eyes, the feeling of the seat underneath your butt, and you probably didn't really think about the feeling of the seat underneath your butt until I said the feeling of the seat underneath your butt. And when you did, you were paying attention to it. Okay? But then when we think about it, right, only the things we pay attention to are the things that are processing at the time. The visual light coming into your eyes, the sound of my voice going through the microphone, echoing throughout this room, unusually loudly, might I add. Okay? Those are the things you're paying attention to. And those are the things that go into your working memory and that you're dealing with in the moment. And your working memory has a limited capacity. You've probably all heard of the limited capacity of your working memory. You can only roughly manage about, what, 4, give or take 3? So up to 7 things in your working memory at a time. Probably heard that before in popular psychology. Okay, this is where the bottlenecking comes in. You can only focus on so many things. So the things you're paying attention to are the ones you are working on. Okay, the ones you're working on right now is the sound of my voice, the visual lights. You probably forgot about your butt in the chairs already until I said it, and now you remember it again. Okay, so that's that bottleneck idea. That's that bottleneck idea. So our goal is to put different things into place that can help you bottleneck the information that's coming in, that bottlenecks the problems, the stressors that you're dealing with. This is built upon a book called The Power of Habit, also another great book, highly recommended, really good read. Talks about how we can use our ability as humans to create habits for our own benefit. I'm sure you all have your typical routines, right? Whether it be getting ready for your HVAC stuff, you know, check your tools, okay? Make sure the tools are all working, none of them are glued together. Whether it be your bedtime routine, to brush your teeth, comb your hair, put on your jammies, have a shot, depending on how old you are. Okay, whatever your bedtime routine happens to be, whatever habit you happen to build, right? It is a habit you built somehow. And the power of that habit can be used. The power of the ability to create habits can be used to create habits that are good for stress management. And that's what we're looking to accomplish. Okay? So batch and bundle the things as they come in. Don't try to focus on everything all at once, because multitasking, whether you believe it or not, is a myth. We cannot multitask. We can multi-process, but we can't multitask. And if you want to know the technicals of that, we can talk about it later. Human factors. At home, what are we going to do? What are we going to do to help us batch and bottleneck? Okay. Spend 10 to 20 minutes before bed planning your next day, your next perfect day. Use your bedtime as a trigger. Use a habit that you already have as some sort of trigger. Do you have a habit of, when you come home from class, putting your backpack on the ground, flopping on the couch and going, if you have that habit already, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that habit. Build on that habit and spend that time planning out your perfect next day and hold yourself accountable to your plan. That's probably the toughest part. You can plan all you want. I plan my perfect morning all the time. That doesn't mean my ass gets out of bed and does it. I try. Oh man, I try. But it helps, right? It helps if you build a habit on a habit. This morning, well, to share with my personal life a little bit, I feed the cat every morning. So between me and my wife, we have feed the cat. I feed the cat in the morning, she feeds the cat at night. Because I usually teach at night, so sometimes I'm not around to feed the cat. So I am working on using the fact that I have to feed the cat as an excuse to get out of bed and actually start going to the gym again, because I've gotten lazy. Probably because I injured my knee, but that's beside the point. Okay. So build upon habits you have. Take 10 to 15 minutes, sometime in a habit you have, focus on your next day, make your plan. Okay. Hold yourself to that plan. Oops. Next, make lists. Lists are great. I love lists. And when I say lists, physical lists, I do this at work all the time. As a talent advisor, basically working in HR, I've got candidates calling me and emailing me. I've got hiring managers calling me and emailing me. I've got team members asking me questions and emails galore all day, every day that I need to roughly keep track of. Can I do all those things at the same time? No, I suck. Right? I just can't. I can't multitask. I can handle only so much at a time. Okay? But the point isn't to handle all those things at a time, it's to find a way to manage them. And I write lists. And I will say, there is nothing more gratifying than getting to scribble something off that list. List done. Check. List thing done. Check. It's even great when you have to scribble the whole paper out. Crumple it up. Yeah. Right? Or wait, yeet. Yay, it worked. Right? Toss that. Just toss that paper. All right. Some of you are smart. Some of you are asking. Some of you are saying, hey, do you want me to take time to plan my time? That seems stupid. It seems redundant. Why take time to plan time? Well, I'll tell you. There are professionals whose entire job it is to essentially plan time. It's project management. I'm sure you've heard of it. It pays really well. Project management is the idea of taking things that are happening and planning them out across time. No worries, you're good. Okay. So when things do come to you, when items come to you, you have to figure out, all right, what's going to go where, when am I going to do certain things? You're going to spend time doing that. Why not exercise these skills in your own life so that way you can bring them to your professional lives as well? Plan your time so that way you can say, hey, I was part of this, I was doing this, I was doing this. Here's how I managed it all. I'm applying for this job at $33 an hour as an associate project manager. I think I'm more than capable of keeping track of my time. All right, as an interviewer, I say, show me. And you say, all right, let me show you how I manage my time. This is a skill. You can practice and learn. And I know for a fact, we hire for that skill. That's what I do. It's my job. Okay, so time management, organization, bottlenecks and things. Make lists. Finally, celebrate. I know this one's a little cheesy. Anybody who's ever seen or been to or talked to any type of therapist or psychological specialist will tell you that there is a beauty to enjoying your accomplishments. Honestly, it's a reward. My example is scribbling out that word or scribbling out that thing on the list and crumpling up that paper and tossing it. It feels good to have done those things. Okay? And you need to reward yourself for doing that. Okay. Celebrate those accomplishments before you move on to the next task. Don't just keep diving in and diving in and diving in, because then you've created a perpetual cycle, right? Create a loop, not a tangent. So reassess your stresses, reassess what you've been through, what you survived. When I told my coworkers I was doing a presentation, again, I thought it was a much smaller presentation than this, but I told my coworkers I was doing a presentation. I said, what tips and tricks would you give college students for dealing with stress? And one of them was, he said, you know what's helped me? And his name's Austin. He said, you know what helped me? I'll let him know. He says, would future Austin be concerned about what's going on right now? And I said, well, probably not, because future Austin's already done with the thing. Just like future Ty is already done with these speeches right now. And so sweating up here on stage, right? It's already done. Okay. And he's like, well, it helps. It helped him. It helped him to say, all right, would the future me be as concerned? Because it helped him stay in the moment, and it helped him to celebrate the fact that he would eventually, he was planning to celebrate, that he would eventually be done with this thing. And he could say, I did it. Okay. Other things that you can leverage, family, friends, pets. Ask your friend, hey, I accomplished this stressful thing. If they're a good friend, they're going to pat you on the back for it. Right? They'll actually be nice. Okay. I always wondered about the friends that are like, so what? I did all these things. Everybody's got the one-upper friend. You know who it is. Of your group of 5, I'm sure one of you knows what the one-upper is. Yeah. Or 6 or 7. How many? 8 of you? That's all in the same group. So one of you is the one-upper, right? Anyway, that's not the point. Okay, leverage your friends, leverage your family, right? Use them as a reward point, because in that power of habit, that habit building we talked about in the previous slide, a reward is helpful. It makes you feel good. It makes you want to do the thing again. Hey, I successfully made the list. I got to scribble out the list. I crumple and throw that list away. That's a good damn feeling. Okay, and I want to feel that again. Use that to your advantage. So how are we going to do this? Let's try this at home. This is probably going to be the toughest one. Spend some time just reflecting on yourself. Write down what comes to mind. Anything that comes to mind. We're not talking about stressors specifically here, but I'm sure some of them will come up. And then spend some time reflecting on the things that came up. What came up in these thoughts? What came up in just this time when it was just me? Laptop wasn't there. My phone wasn't even in earshot. Laptop's off. It's just me on the couch enjoying the sound of my apartment. Or whatever. In the basement. In the hub. Whatever. Okay? Just let your mind wander and write down some of those things. Sift out some facts and opinions. So start later when you're going through these things, figure out, all right, hey, what are just some random thoughts? Right? What are some of these opinions that I have that could be potentially negative, could be positive? Sift out some of these things. Really, it's a reflection on yourself to understand what is the lens through which I see the world. And you can use that to figure out how we can celebrate some of these successes. Repeat this exercise, and this is important. Repeat this exercise as time goes on, and you can start to see how things change. Arguably for the better if you're implementing the tips. You don't have to, I'm not here to tell you what to do. It's your life. You're all adults, for the most part. Okay? But repeat these exercises over time, and you will see that, hey, growth does happen. It just takes time, and you've got it. Doesn't feel like you do. You do. So reflect on how you move forward. Spend some time in your own mind. Okay. So to wrap it all up. So we've learned our limits. We've learned the basis of where stress comes from, the biological concepts of it. To go back to the story I told you before, I am not going to stand up here and preach that you should never feel stressed, that stress is a bad thing, and that you are a failure because you've experienced stress and had to walk away from something. I don't believe that to be true because I have faced that fear many a times. I have faced that stress many a times. I've had to back away from things many a times. And you may think I'm a successful person because I'm the one giving the presentation today. I don't really think I am. Might just be imposter syndrome, but it is what it is. They asked, I volunteered, I said, sure, why not? I feel successful right now. Right? But learn your limits and focus on building your skills because these are skills. Acceptance, bottlenecking, and batching. Right? Celebrating. These are skills. As cheesy as they sound, they are things that you can learn. And I highlighted how time management is a skill that helps you professionally. Okay. Leverage online resources. We are in a beautiful digital age where there's information galore. All of this stuff I found on Google. I mean, I knew where to look, but it's all on Google. Actually, my slide presentation was originally a Google slideshow. It's all there. All my memes, Google. I thought they were good. Okay, so find these resources. They're out there to help you. Talk to your counselors, talk to people. We're not in this alone. Okay? Leverage those around you, friends, family members. I am hard-pressed to find somebody, anybody in this room who can feel like, hey, I am alone in this world because I only need me. If you look at the shirt on your back, somebody helped you with that shirt. Did you make it? Did you sew that shirt? You did not. Somebody did it for you. Maybe you paid them, but somebody did it for you. Right? So we have others around us that we can leverage for our help, for our guidance, for our stress. You're not alone in the struggle. Enjoy the journey. It's really all life is. I have this conversation with my half siblings last night. They're getting done with high school, and they're scared. She straight up told me, I'm scared, and I don't know what's coming up next. She's like, if I go to college, it'll just give me a direction. And I'm trying to tell her, it's not about just direction anymore. Somebody can't give you the direction anymore. It's up to you to decide, take those steps, and to grow. And part of it's just enjoying that journey, because there's no destination. It's not just about getting the degree or the house, because there's always something farther. It's called the hedonic treadmill. Feel free to write that down as well. Right? There's always another step that's coming. So if you're always focused on that final goal, you're going to miss the journey there. So enjoy that journey.